right, and back with This Week at Tassi, my weekly news roundup. I will be able to start doing these and other videos more regularly now, as I've gotten some additional childcare help, so that will be good for making more videos. So I'm hoping to get back to YouTube in a more regular basis. So this week, kind of a crazy week, especially if you're in my neck of the woods with Bungie. Have to start there. Normally I'd probably do a whole video on this, but I thought I would put it here in the opener. I mean, it's really big industry news as well. The news is that Bungie CEO Pete Parsons is stepping down, retiring, passing the torch to Destiny 2 GM Justin Truman, who will now be the studio head of Destiny, or Bungie. That term, studio head, is significant because it is part of Sony kind of absorbing responsibility for Bungie. You're not CEO of a separate entity now. You are studio head of a studio that Sony owns. So that's why it's structured that way. There's been a lot of celebration among the community because Pete Parsons is sort of this big villain and the guy who, you know, the buck stops at him for all of the bad decisions of the studio, and all the hundreds and hundreds of layoffs and kind of the overall decline. That's all very true. And then he was also memed because, you know, we found out he's this giant collector of classic cars, which cost bazillions of dollars, as his, you know, studios doing layoffs left and right. The idea here that a lot of people have is that Parsons is leaving because he's getting fired, because Sony is booting him out, because Bungie is not performing well, and Destiny's declining, and Marathon looks bad, and so they're just kicking him to the curb. That is almost certainly not what's happening. As part of the Bungie being purchased by Sony 3 years ago, a lot of the executives and a lot of the Bungie veterans, you know, had options where they would be given a lot of vested stock that vests after 3 to 5 years, and that means you can then leave and take a giant payout that was part of the deal. Obviously, there will be a wide range of payouts, but as CEO of Bungie, you can bet that Pete Parsons is getting a metric ton of money. I believe in the Chris Barrett lawsuit, one of his chief claims is that he was fired without cause, so Bungie wouldn't have to pay him. I believe it's $50 million. So if Chris Barrett was going to get $50 million, you might imagine what Pete Parsons would get. That's not confirmed publicly, but it's been 3 years and 1 month since the Sony purchase, so you can do the math there. And you can also wait and see how many other senior ex-veteran Bungie people start to take these payouts and leave. Some will be after 3 years, and then we can check back in 2 years and see how many more leave. I don't know if there's 4-year deals, but that is almost certainly what's happening here. This is not exactly like justice for Bungie and all the layoffs. Like, you know, he's almost certainly making out like a bandit. Whether this fixes Bungie under Justin Truman and now, you know, the new Destiny GM is Blake Battle. There are much larger problems at Bungie structurally and within these individual games that I think, you know, well, the buck stopped at Parsons. There are many, many problems that even if you're a good boss or a good manager, you know, that doesn't automatically mean you're making the right decisions or making a good game. Even at, you know, much lower levels, if you're making day-to-day decisions about, say, what to nerf and buff in Destiny, that wasn't a CEO call. That's just something you're making. So this isn't a magic fix, even though this is probably good news overall. And I think people should be more realistic about what exactly happened here, as opposed to just, you know, justice, getting fired, all that stuff. Outside of that, we can move on to PlayStation finally announcing that they are raising prices on PS5 hardware. That is essentially a $50 increase across all forms of PS5 hardware, except PSVR 2 is not included here because I think Sony forgot they make it. This is not unexpected. This is very expected, given that at a certain point you got to react to the tariffs. Trump has been turning tariffs on and off and putting them higher and lower on all sorts of countries. Mainly the ones that factor in here are the countries that make a lot of components for all of these game systems, whether these are Japanese systems or the Xbox or things like that. That is China, that is Vietnam, that is Cambodia, and all of those have some sort of higher than before tariff on them. Like, prices are up for everything. Like, buy anything and it costs way more now, essentially. So video game consoles are no exception to this. Sony is sort of in the middle here, where Xbox raised prices a ton. Like, at one point, I think $130 on the high-end Series X, which is nuts, where Sony's only doing 50 across models. Nintendo has reacted sort of the slowest. They raised prices on the old Switch, Switch 1, and then a bunch of hardware accessories, some Switch 2 hardware accessories. And it has not been ruled out that Nintendo is going to raise prices on the Switch 2. I think they probably will take it from $450 to $500 just because of these economic conditions, because they have to be taking some pretty steep hits on this. You sell bazillions of consoles and you're setting record paces, but if you're losing money, that's not ideal. So we'll see what happens with Nintendo. And then obviously computer components and stuff, even if we're not talking about one brand, are going up as well. So the Sony news, not great, but also very, very expected. What may be less expected is Silksong. We knew people have been early previewing it, like it exists, it's real, and then we had this live stream that was a pretty short trailer for it, but the surprise is that it not only exists, it not only is going to be released soon, it is going to be released in 2 weeks, in very early September here. I think the 6th, something like that. And so it's going to be reality at long last. This was originally Hollow Knight bonus content that got turned into its own big thing. It was announced 6.5 years ago. At the same time this was announced, Jason Schreier published this big expose about why the game took so long to make, and it's Jason Schreier going to do all the, this was horrible development, this boss did this bad thing, they had problems with this engine. Nope, not this time. The explanation mainly is that the developers had so much fun making the game that they just kept wanting to make it and make more stuff and put more stuff in. And that just took a really long time. I don't think I've ever heard a behind the scenes thing quite like that, which is fascinating. And it's good news. We certainly don't want people to have to be developing games under horrible conditions, which is very much what happens all of the time. This, if it's really good, could be in Game of the Year contention with, name it, Expedition 33, Blueprints, Death Stranding 2, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Kingdom Come Deliverance, name your favorites. But we'll find out more in 2 weeks if it lives up to 7 years of hype. That sort of seems unlikely, but I guess, it's great it exists, great it's coming out. I'm sure it's going to be good. I realize that this entire episode has a guest spot from Eevee's Sploot there, so that's fun. Then we will move to Roblox. This is a game I almost never cover because I don't know shit about Roblox for the most part, but I do know that it's a place that predators go to meet and prey on children, and that is something everybody knows now, and it has really escalated in the past week or so, where Roblox took the step of banning what they call vigilantes, which are users that essentially entrap predators on the site. And this one, who's a really high profile one named Schlep, was banned for this, and he has actually resulted in arrests of people trying to meet children. The community obviously did not react well to this. Roblox's explanation was that this is too dangerous, and maybe there's not enough evidence sometimes, and you're hurting people, but everyone took that to mean you're protecting predators. That was not the end of it. The Louisiana Attorney General is suing Roblox for not protecting children. That sounds, justified, but this also seems like it's being used to enforce more age verification internet laws, which are bad, generally speaking, I'd say, for a lot of the content they are trying to verify. This one, I don't know. I get what she's saying. It just feels like it's kind of being used for some other agenda. The icing on the cake here is that Chris Hansen is returning to the spotlight to do some sort of deep dig, expose on Roblox, interviewing police, interviewing victims, interviewing vigilantes, and kind of exploring the whole idea of there being predators. This is Chris Hansen is the guy from To Catch a Predator. If you don't know, that show ended a long time ago. He's got his own like crime streaming thing. So again, I don't know if he knows anything about Roblox, and this might just be a thing to sort of promote his new crime channel or whatever. But, you know, Chris Hansen investigating Roblox is like the worst headline you could possibly come up with. Roblox is nuts. It's like the biggest thing in the world, like gaming wise. It's bigger than everything on Steam combined. Like, I don't think people understand how big Roblox is. I barely understand how big Roblox is. Like, it is an entire world that, you know, our nation's youth are occupying, and it's really good to know things about it and know that this is happening there. So we'll see what happens with that. Not a great week for Roblox. Their stock went down. I have to check what it is now, but bad week. I hope they deserve, you know, what's coming to them in terms of the consequences for not protecting children. They did announce a number of changes that they're making to, like, children can't go into bedroom spaces and anymore. I'm like, what? They were what? Like, it's a whole thing, but a lot of people's like creations who are just like normal people are getting deleted, and like people make money from these, so it's a whole thing. We will end with something that's just kind of cool. Helldivers announced that they are doing a Halo crossover with ODST. They have, I think it's their first legendary war bond where you can get, you know, ODST armor, and then they're going to have Halo weapons. And, you know, Helldivers, I think they said they didn't want to ever do crossovers, or if they did, it would have to be like super, super on point. And, you know, God knows how many ridiculous crossovers we're getting in video games now with Beavis and Butthead and Call of Duty and Darth Vader and Destiny 2, and like it's the Fortnite-ification of all games now. This one is fine. This one makes total sense. It's the Xbox launch of Helldivers 2. They're doing an ODST crossover. These are the literal soldiers who show up in drop pods and shoot aliens. So you can't really get more on point than that. No Master Chief here, but everyone is noting, of course, that once again, the biggest development in Halo is not anything remotely connected to a new Halo game. It's a crossover, and Fortnite also has a Halo theme this year, or this season, with either adding more Spartans, you know, more types of armor and stuff, and I think it's part of the storyline and things. And then, of course, before this, the big Halo conversation was about how awful the live-action TV show is. Yeah, you know, Xbox has had these like far-reaching, like, here's what's coming to Xbox, and nothing Halo is ever there. You know, even years in the future, there are rumblings that, like, yes, the future of Halo is coming and blah blah blah. But like after Infinite, I don't have a ton of faith on that, at least on the Master Chief side. Maybe multiplayer, since that got so much better. I really did not like the campaign of Halo Infinite. I've been pretty vehement about that, and some people did, but yeah, I don't hold much hope for the future of Halo under 343 at this point. I'm not sure Xbox should either, but here we are. And that will probably be released on PlayStation, so stay tuned for that in 7 years or whatever it's going to be. That is it for me. I am currently playing Destiny Rising. This is an early access build. It's a vertical slice where you just sort of have access to like these campaign missions, these strikes, these gauntlet things. It's not like playing through the game like from the start like we've had with other tests. I'm not sure how much there is to say ahead of launch. I'm not seeing tons of differences, and I'm not experiencing tons of new content yet. It's all the stuff I've already done in the alpha. It seems more polished. It still seems like a pretty solid game. It's just, you know, I'll do a whole video on that later, but and then it comes out in a week or so. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.